Hello and welcome to the fifth or sixth Unisense webinar. We're super excited to be here again. As always, my good friend Bharat is joining me. Hello, Bharat.
Hey, Kevin. Glad to be here, everybody.
Perfect. Bharat, we got some exciting news. The big news today is that we finally launched our podcast, which is called Two Guys Talking AI. And I think the name kind of summarizes what we do. And it's exciting. We are on Podbean right now, Podbean. You can sign up and follow us or subscribe. But we will also be shortly on to all the major platforms, including iHeart, Apple, Amazon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So big step for us. We took it from a simple concept of two guys coming together. It started two guys talking at lunch, and then we took it to a webinar, and now we have our podcast. So this is super exciting, and we will be sending it out via social as well. So we look for everybody to subscribe and enjoy our discussions of AI. So,
Kevin, if I could just jump in for a moment, I think AI has been around for a while. I mean, we introduced it into internet advertising in the late 90s, and today it's there for everyone. And the reason to highlight it is, what I heard from doctors, and I don't know whose quote it is, but it is that it's not that AI is ever going to replace a doctor, but a doctor with AI has a better chance of succeeding today than a doctor who doesn't use AI. And I think that's where what we're seeing in almost every field, that it's available. People just need to know how to dip into it.
That's a great point. And also, I think what's great about this podcast / webinar, I guess we'll start calling it a podcast, is that I think AI, people believe AI is chat and it helps you rewrite essays and helps you write emails, but AI goes a lot deeper. And I think we're seeing it in all levels. And, what we really kicked off this series about is kind of debunking this fear. I mean, I don't know how many times I've watched CNN and local news, and Congress is taking up how to ban AI and how to control AI, and these experts from a long time ago are saying AI is going to be the demise of society. But I think what we're trying to show is that AI isn't, and AI has been here for a long time. The difference is based on data and based on the computing power, people are actually able to use it themselves. And I think that's where something like this and how we can talk about how it's affecting every step of our lives is big, because it's no longer, don't be afraid of it, embrace it, use it. It's not going to replace your job. It's not going to start, controlling everything we do. It only enhances it. So great point on the medical side.
On the e-commerce side, if I could jump in, many of our customers were, when we initially talked to them, they were like, why should we use it? We've got people that have been, doing this for so many years, and, we know what sells and we know what's going to work. And it's exactly what you said, right? We're not trying to AI is not here to replace anybody. It really is making things a lot easier and is able to process data where the human mind can't go. And the human mind still does a lot of things where AI can't go. And so it's really a matter of finding that balance. And we had many of our customers who were very skeptical at first come back and say, I can't do without this. And my team is looking at other things.
Well, that's great. And that's, and you kind of led into it again. I wish we did practice and rehearse, because this would looks like we know what we're talking about. But, one thing we talked about, and one of the things we received feedback on is up until now, we talked about conceptual, how is AI impacting this? What are the benefits of this? What we really didn't approach it is the tactical and really the nuts and bolts and how it really affects customers and what we saw. And so I thought what we could do today is I'm going to throw out 3 case studies, And every time someone hears case studies, they're like, "Oh, this is going to be boring." It's really not case studies; it's storytelling. And what we really want to talk about is how we had an issue. It came to Unisense, and how AI was able to help and kind of correct the problem, or at least get the problem resolved to the point where they turn the corner and it's becoming much more positive. Barat, again, if any of these are negative and it did not work out, please share, because that's one of those things as well that we can always talk about the positives and how it changed the world, but there's also times that it didn't. So, I'm gonna leave out the names just because I think this really came up a couple days ago, so I didn't reach out to the customers and ask if we could use their names. So really, what I want to do is kind of talk about the issue, and then you can chime in and talk about how AI Unisense, even though we continue to push and this is not a sales platform, but how the solution was able to help it. So what I want to start with is the first customer. Let's just call him customer one. That's an easy one. We're gonna have three of them, and then after each one, we'll pause, field questions. But the first one, here's the scenario: the customer was spending money on ads. They were doing all kind of digital ads. I think they're even doing print. But what was happening is when people actually came to their site, their bounce rate was high. And for anybody who doesn't understand bounce rate, it's I click on a link or I put in a URL. The moment I come to the site, I leave. That's a lot of money for zero impact. So I think you remember the customer. Can you talk about how AI, first of all, how you looked at the problem, how AI was able to dissect the problem, and then how AI was able to solve the problem?
Yeah, I think that's actually a great case study, Kevin, because this one reminded me of I think Brad Pitt in one of the train movies, where very exciting movie, because it isn't like the train stops at the station and then you can get in with your AI solution. You have to board the running train with it. So the customer is constantly loading products. They're constantly selling. They didn't want to take down their site. So they're like, hey, this train is running, you bring your solution in. Their problem was the following, right? They had spent so much money on ads, literally 30, 40, close to 50% of their revenues. And they noticed a very high bounce rate. It was somewhere in the 50 to 60%, hovered between mid 50s. So what is bounce? Bounce means you pay $1, you got a user to come to your site. The user did nothing and left. They did absolutely nothing on your site. That's bounce. And we realized that there's something going on. I mean, they're retailing apparel at very nice apparel. I bought a few myself. They're retailing it at 10, $12 per item. And who wouldn't want a good shirt or a t-shirt or even a trouser for that price? And when we looked at it, we analyzed their traffic. We found there was actually no problems with the ads. So they were getting the right users, but the right consumers, but these guys were not buying. And when we looked at their behavior, we found 83% of their shoppers clicked on ads because of a preference to the style or the color, and it didn't really match the advertised product. So when they came into the site, we found that they had seen something, and the moment they landed, the landing page did not even reflect what could have been their interest. And we found that they were also displaying other products in the same price range as soon as the user landed, which again didn't work at all. So they were high bounce rates. They were like really bleeding advertising money. And there was a lot of initial resistance to bringing in a tech solution, and we were working a little bit with the IT team, whose main charter was something else. So there's a lot of people dynamics as well in any organization. And so what we did is we thought about what could be going on, and we realized that it's just like when you walk into a retail store, you have a window, you have a window shop where you show 2 or 3 good items. Now every ad needs its own window. And that window has to be intelligent. It has to take into account what the consumer's seen in the ad itself and what picture it's painting in their minds, and also what the retailer wants to project. So you got to, get a mix of these, and it's very hard for a human being to sit down and, especially if you have 1,000 ads driving traffic to your site, to think about what to do for each of those ads. So we used an interesting concept that Unisense has, which is called cognitive curations. So we were able to create themes around what the users may be interested in, and give them a mix of products. One is something that really matches the ad, and a few are what matches what the retailer wants to project, and and then different flavors of these to, because we really want to understand what each shopper is looking for. So if you clicked on an ad and I clicked on the same ad, we may have both looked for, say, blue shirts, but we're both probably going in two different directions. So you got to give me the way to follow my path and you to follow your path. And that's what we did, is you got to assemble enough products in the landing page, and this can't be humanly done the moment you cross 50 to 100 ads. It's just impossible. The second thing is, for this retailer, the color and fabric, the material were very important. So we realized that through the AI, that this is the centerpiece of what should be highlighted in the landing pages. We reduced the bounce rate significantly, and they suddenly started seeing a humongous lift. In fact, this user saw almost a 500% lift in
Wow.
the conversions from ads. And it was even above that, but yeah, they saw a very, very huge lift. And so that's definitely one good example where you board the running train and you do run into a lot of difficulties, but you have to make it very seamless, and the AI has to be easily available for them.
So, Barad, you brought up a good point, and that's where the first thing I would ask you is, that sounds great, but it seems overwhelming because right now I know enough to be dangerous on digital advertising, and I've made 3 animated and 3 stagnant ads. Now you're telling me I need to make over 100, or I have 200 products or 300 products. So how do I start? I mean, I guess that's the question. So yes, I'm ready to do it. I come in. What's my next steps, and how does AI and the Unisense solution come in and kind of help me out with that?
Yeah, let's start it very simple. Actually, we worked with e-tailers that had just one product, Kevin. So it's easier to explain this concept when you have one product, and then think of it as tens or hundreds or thousands or even millions. So when you have just one product, let's say you use a platform, maybe like Shopify, a lot of the solutions are available as apps, which are easy to download and install, and Unisense is no different. So the only thing is you have thousands of apps on Shopify, so you have to filter the ones that you really need. And once you do that, then a lot of these apps go and they curate your data and create these sort of different groupings or these different window shops for you. So it's as easy as installing an app, but it's never as easy as installing an app. Um, and that's because there is a learning curve to do something new and to use some form of automation. Because the things that you're doing using human intensive approaches, those get automated, and you move the people in the team to a higher value in the food chain. So rather than just going into data tagging, which is what people were doing upfront, you now go into intelligent ways of managing the data. So it's fairly easy to get started. For example, the Unisense solution ingests the catalog automatically. There are many SaaS-based solutions, and this is one of them. SaaS, as you all know, is software as a service. So it runs in the background where the retailer doesn't have to know much about it. And if they're on a platform, it connects to the platform. If they're a giant retailer, They probably have their own platform because of all the specific things that they do. And they have the ability through an API to connect to the SaaS platform.
Hey, Bharat, I actually, believe it or not, we just got our first question. What about budgets? I guess they're saying advertising budget. So if they spend $100 a month on 2 ads, do they need to times that by 100, or can they stay within their budget and it optimizes? I
Yeah.
think I'm ad-libbing the question, but I think that was the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great question. So how much do they need to spend? Like most retailers, when they start out, they probably have they have I've seen two schools of thought. There is the more I would say traditional approach where they say, I'm going to start making revenues and then I'll take a slice of those revenues and put it into advertising. The problem is in this heavily marketed world, you don't get hurt. So you may never reach that level of revenues with just organic outreach. So some amount of advertising is needed. And retailers start from anywhere from a multiple of their revenues. So they start with some of the cash they've allocated, and start advertising that amount, and then slowly bring it down to, I think, eventually in a steady state somewhere between what we've seen is anywhere between 20 to 40% of their revenues. It goes into advertising, all forms of advertising. Um, I think in terms of budget, what solutions like Unisense do is they take whatever you've allocated, whatever your strategy is, and optimize within that budget. Because most retailers today have conversion rates of 1%. Typically hovers around 1%. There's the off chance it may go to 3 or 4%. But the other 99 people are coming to your site and they are potential shoppers. It's just that they're buying somewhere else. And so the thing is, you've already spent the money to attract them to your site. How do you show your inventory to them quickly? Remember our 90-second rule, which we discovered is 50% of shoppers in 90 seconds make a decision to buy. So how do you do that? And so it's a handshake between your advertising budget, the ads itself, and where they land, the selection of products they see upon landing.
Perfect. That's great answer. So let's keep moving because I definitely I'm doing my best, and I don't think there's going to be a chance that I stay within a half hour, but I'm going to do the best that I can. So that was case study one. So let's talk about story two. And story two is it's kind of the opposite. The individual or the company, the store, is pretty good at their advertising. They have people get to their site. Their bounce rate is relatively low because people come to their site, they search, they actually fill the cart, and then they leave. And that's the dreaded term abandonment. I guess it's the equivalent of we're walking around a store, we fill a push cart full of clothing, and then we just stop and walk out the door. So there was a customer that had that issue. Can you kind of approach that and talk about? So now we've talked about advertising, the bounce rate. Now they're there. I guess they like the product, but they're leaving. What do you see, or what was Unisense solution for that, and how did AI impact that?
Yeah. So this customer actually they had hired the services of a CRO who essentially is like conversion rate optimization.
So
And
CRO, for everybody who doesn't know that,
yeah, so the first
or
thing
that
was
what is that, Chief Revenue Officer?
no, it's conversion rate optimization.
I'm joking. I know. I thought I'm trying to get us not to use acronyms because a lot of people don't understand them. So
Yeah, so they when we went there, the CRO person said, "Hey, what's the technology going to do? The problem is pricing. You're not pricing it right, so people aren't buying." So we actually spent a couple of meetings with the CRO, who was actually a consultant, to say that, hey, we're not here to, and I'm going to be very candid, we're not here to steal your lunch. We're actually here to give you some tools to be even more effective. And because I genuinely believe it's the combination of AI and HI, artificial intelligence and human intelligence, that you say hi to AI, and I believe that's really what makes the difference. So we were able to then get the CEO to say, let's do an unbiased investigation. So we analyzed their data, looked at the conversion data, the product performance. We even looked at, the session duration, how long are people spending time there, and the bounce rates. And like you said, Kevin, this e-tailer had lower bounce rates, but and they had decent session duration, but people were not buying. Um, so we realized that their search functionality was problematic. So, people don't like to search in the way the current search interface is set up. We find that they have to keep putting more and more filters, and it's almost like you have to, cram a bunch of formulas before your math test rather than understand it. It's more like I keep on searching and I keep on searching, and then I have this aha moment. By that time, the charm of shopping is gone. So it was more, we realized that the search functionality wasn't surfacing the products that the customers wanted. And rather than go and initially change the entire search, we said, let's actually take our visual AI and then understand all of their products. So we scanned all their images, and we realized that product discovery was a problem, that people were there to buy products, they were just not finding it. And so we said, let's improve the search. And without changing the search engine itself, where there was a lot invested, we actually added a lot of thematic filters to it. For example, we created a filter called a Zodiac filter, where we knew that a lot of people that were coming here had some interest in zodiac signs. We knew at least 10-20% of the traffic was interested in something like that. And we were able to take the inventory and group it in a more interesting way. And this is just one of the examples. We used different kinds of thematic filters, and that significantly started boosting the conversion rates because they had a sustainable fashion line. So sustainability was a big thing. So the people who were coming there were already interested in sustainability, knew about this e-tailer, but it allowed them to actually, find a more interesting way to find things that they were looking for. So we worked with their setup, we worked with their search, we we found ways to use the AI in a way that really augmented their data and gave them significantly higher conversion rates. They started seeing right from the end of the first month a 27% jump in the conversion rates, and then it started increasing from there.
That's amazing. That's it's interesting because you look at everything as pieces, and if I'm doing my job, I have people coming to our site, and I have people actually putting items in a cart, but they're not buying. And it's a class, especially in big organizations, it's a classic. That's not my problem. My problem was to get people to the site and get them to put things in the cart. Them not converting, that's merchandising, that's pricing, that's you name it. Where I think what's great about AI is it takes that I'm going to use a cliche here, but it takes that silo approach and really breaks it down. And I think that's huge. So excellent case study, excellent story. I want to move on to the third one. And the third customer that I like to talk about, and this one's really unique. I don't know how to ask the question, so I'm going to kind of talk about, I guess what I'll do is I'll talk about the scenario, and then you can grab the ball and run with it. But, it had to do with personas. And this customer was really unique because it had two clearly defined personas. It had what we define internally in the house as tier one and tier two. I guess a layman's view would be expensive and a luxury and inexpensive, or non-luxury. But the problem is that, well, I'm not going to talk about the problem. You remember the customer?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you take it on and explain exactly what the challenge was and how AI was able to kind of approach the challenge and correct the issue they were seeing?
Yeah, so this was a giant actually, and I think the problem is we don't understand the different personas. There's a lot of research into it, but really, what's the persona, and what is a persona? They people term folks that are looking for, say, luxury items, or somebody that's an impulse buyer, or someone looking for promotions and discounts. Uh, a researcher. There's people who just love to research before they buy. So there's different types of personas that have been identified, and I think this e-tailer was thinking about it as, it just makes sense to have people, they'll either pay for something, or they're willing to pay a lot and get a high price item, or they would like to go for something that's more of a bargain. They divided it into a couple of categories. So they asked us if we could handle two, and we said, actually we can handle several, because for us every customer is their own category. And if I kind of put myself in that seat, I find that I'm definitely a tier one buyer for electronics, but I'm probably a tier 100 buyer for t-shirts. And so I say, you can't even pin my persona on me, because I'm a changeling myself. So how do you actually, how do we do this, and how do we understand? And then as we worked with almost 1 million shoppers over a long period of time. We found that sometimes shoppers say that, look, I'm not even buying for myself. I'm buying for my brother, or I'm buying for a friend. I can only buy so many items for myself, but I'm buying all these gifts. So then the persona doesn't even hold, because it's how they see the other person. So we realized that that it's we had to really understand what the different personas are. Having said that, we found you can, at a granular level, identify about 40 different shopper personas. They hold for some period of time, or they hold for a user. But even breaking it down into that, there's the ability for you to set up your window shops. We talked about the window shops earlier, but can you set up a window shop for each persona and guide that persona to that window shop for that particular category? So that itself becomes something interesting. We talked about filters. Filters also become very interesting, and based on personas, because if both of us refine the search for a blue shirt, we probably need different filters. And finally, even the ads themselves have to fit into persona. So you may want some catch-all ads, but the moment the user lands on the site, you have to redirect them by persona. So the ad landing also becomes something that AI plays a crucial role. The other thing about it is, it's not a one-time thing. You can't just say blue shirts, I ran my ad, and let them come here. You got to tweak it every day for most retailers, and for some retailers many times a day, because you for the very large retailers, you have different groups of people buying at different times. So if there's folks that actually get on the first time, as soon as they go into the office, they switch on the site and see what they can pick up. And there's folks that will never shop in the office. So you get different groups of people. There's folks that potentially shop at lunchtime, and there's kids who are going to be looking for stuff once school is over. So you definitely get different groups of people that shop, and there's weekday shoppers, weekend shoppers. So there is an understanding of shopper preferences, choices, and so you need an automated system that can build this intelligence, enforce it, tweak it, tune it, and make this more effective. So we first thing we did is we played back to them what their customer personas were. We took the data from them, we analyzed it and said, this is what's going on. This is what we feel. This is the number of personas you have on site. And this is the strategy we would advise for each of them. And you know what? We can automatically take care of it. Um, and so even though this was a success, I feel um, it's not enough because it's not just 40 personas. There are more than 100, and there is a continuum between them, and it's very hard to lock a user into a persona. So the AI needs to have this ability to forget and remember based on context. So there's still a lot of work to do, and I think there's a lot of change that's going to happen, especially with the amount of information coming in from generative AI. But we were able to take this customer through the journey, and especially given the size of their catalog and the number of transactions per second. All this has to happen. This AI has to happen with split second latency. So there's a lot of pre-work the AI needs to do to deliver a good solution. But overall, I feel I would give ourselves um, um, you know maybe not an A+, but I think there's room for improvement, especially because personas are changing for users so dramatically.
Brad, I love these webinars because they always give me that aha moment. And one of the aha moments I'm picking out is if you look at the three customers that you talked about, there's a common theme, and this is where I think AI comes into it. The common theme is we're not replacing people, but AI is able to get to that granular level that humans can't.
Yep.
You talked about ads. Great. Both of us were ad people a long time ago, and yes, we could run 20, 50, 100 cells of 10 ads each, but it was manual, and the interaction between those ads could be daily, could be weekly, but again, we didn't have that ability to get down to the granular level real time. And then you talked about personas. Uh, that's always the classic kickoff. Let's talk about the personas. You establish the personas and then you put them on the wall because you do some great artwork and you walk by it and you can talk about the personas. But we weren't able to change the interaction of the personas real time. And I think that's where AI has come in. And again, we have not replaced a single individual, but we made all those individuals bigger, stronger, faster in everything they do. And I think that's where the power of AI and a solution like Unisense comes in, because now I'm able to take what I used to do and make it better and make it faster and make it more impactful on real time. And I think that's one of those aha moments that when you think about the three customers that you talked about, each one of them were doing something. It wasn't effective. We brought in a solution with an AI engine powering that solution, and now they became better. And I think that's huge. So I love picking those kind of things out of our conversations. And I don't know if you agree, or am I looking at it in the wrong way?
No, absolutely, Kevin. I think while the AI can crunch all this data, it there is a certain human flavor to it, right? Where we've built our systems so they can actually pull the slider on the AI and decide how deep it needs to go in a certain direction. And I think that's it's a lot like cooking, although I won't claim to be a really good cook. It's it's like I add the various spices to the food, right? And that's the human element of it. And the amount of spice you add, completely has a bearing on the taste. And so the best AI is that where you have the ability to guide it through the human intuition. And I think that's where we're finding our solutions to be unique, and our approach of having thought about it for so many years to yield some results to people.
That's awesome. That's great. Bharat, thank you so much. Two things I want to talk about to close up. These are more going back to my famous quote of admin stuff. Again, super excited about two guys talking AI. Take a look at it, follow it, subscribe to it, listen to it, give us feedback on it, um, and enjoy it more so. The other thing is we are going to do 2 podcasts this week. And tomorrow we are going to be remote in this great city of Palo Alto doing a webinar real time outside. So this is going to be exciting. We've never done this before. I don't know how it's going to go, but as all these, we do it and then we decide if it's good or not. But I'm excited for it. And what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about travel. And we thought about it. And the reality of it is we can sit in an office and talk about theories of travel, talk about the positives of AI and how it's affecting booking airline tickets and hotels. But, Broad had a great idea. Why do that? And why not just go into the city, talk about travel, talk about the impact of AI on cities? That's another big one where, how do we promote local shops and restaurants, hotels, activities? And so we're going to do that tomorrow, same time, 12 o'clock. I'm going to put something out on our Twitter handle, I guess formerly known as Twitter, and look forward to it. So cross our fingers it doesn't rain, because I think we're going to do this rain or shine. So I look forward to tomorrow, Bharat, and thank you again.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for all the preparation and groundwork for this webinar and for tomorrow's as well.
Outstanding. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.